people. It's KaCey here, and welcome to another edition of On the Front Porch. Now, today is pretty special because it is our 1 year anniversary. That's right. We dropped this podcast on July 4th of 2022. And as you know, it was a way for me to continue to really share the thoughts that I had that were percolating while I was on the campaign trail running for the at-large 7th seat of the Atlanta Board of Education. We all know how the story goes. I was not declared the winner. Not in that sense anyway, not declared the winner on that particular race, but you win in so many other ways, right? And I've learned that my role is probably a bit more impactful on this side of the seats than actually holding the seat. Although holding the seats is really, really important because those are the final decision makers in a sense, where they say yay or nay to policies and ordinances and regulations and all the things, right? So we need folks in those seats that are going to be able to really look out for the folks who need people to look out for them the most, honestly. This is going to be my most personal podcast yet. I don't know if I'm going to get this personal again. You know, I've been really trying to come to you all from a sociological and a theological and a communal kind of, framework around some of the topics and some of the discussions that we have. And I realized that my life and who I am is fully embedded in it. And also my life and who I am has kept me from being, I think, as impactful as I want to be. And so I'm going to use this 1st year anniversary of the podcast as a way to really dig deep, get vulnerable with you. Now look, I can tell all my business. Okay. Like, let's just be clear about that. Some things stay between me and Jesus. All right. So, but I am going to share some things that I haven't shared before. A lot of times, what has kept me from sharing those things is fear of whether or not people are going to like me anymore, or folks gonna feel like I'm being petty or messy. Do people even really care? You know, those are some of the things that have kept me from, as cliche as it sounds, speaking my truth. What I have learned, though, is that sometimes your truth is not the truth. Right? We say that a lot of times when what we really mean is my opinion, my assessment, my perspective. But, when we really kind of dig in this bag of, well, it's my truth, you're looking for a justification for you to respond the way that you are responding. You're looking for vindication. You are looking for validation. You're looking for affirmation. You're looking for a vote of confidence from someone to say, you know what? Yeah, you were really, really hurtful and really, really mean. But because it's your truth, we're just going to bypass that. It's not really how that works. Not in the grand scheme of things. So I'm going to share my observations of the experiences that I've had thus far. I'm going to share my perspective of what I think that means. And I am also going to really get into, again, some of the things that I have wanted to say for a while, but again, fear of retaliation, fear of, oh no, that's not what happened. That's not what people meant. Like, let's just get into it. My life has been a series of changes over the last couple of months. It has. In October of last year, in October of 2022, a 3-year relationship that I was in ended. I thought that I was going to marry this man. I had begun talking to my mother about him, which is a huge step for me because in our family, we normally don't talk about boyfriends and girlfriends and significant others unless it is really, really serious. right? And so I began talking to my mom about him. I began dropping little breadcrumbs, crumbs with my cousins and my family members to kind of let them know, hey, there is somebody. And that relationship didn't last. It didn't. I'm not going to get into why, because that would be me telling too much of his business. But I will say this: it didn't end because of a lack of love. It didn't end because of someone doing something to someone else. He had to make a choice for his life, and the best way that he was going to be able to move through this life. And that took him away from me. It took him away. And he was not one who wanted to engage in a long distance relationship. And so we had to end the commitment of our relationship, but still friendly, right? Still check on each other, still make sure we're okay, and all the things. But that got me thinking, like, girl, you 42. By now, you would have thought you had your 7 kids. You would have been celebrating like at least, 15 to 20 years of marriage. Like I had this whole thing mapped out in my brain, right? I was gonna have the house and we were gonna travel and we were gonna be the it couple and all of that. And life happened. If I think back to where this train got off track, um, when it comes to my own personal life, I don't know where I'd pinpoint it. Some days I think it was 17 when my high school boyfriend showed up the night before, my daddy was to put us in a car to drive me to Atlanta to Morris Brown College, and he's asking me not to go. And I'm telling him daddy is already fried chicken, because look here, in the South, let me tell you this: if you're going on a road trip and your daddy has already been frying chicken and making sandwiches and made a snack run and got the cooler packed, your behind is getting in the car and your behind is going on whatever road trip you're going on. So it was not going to be well received for me to walk into the house and say, Daddy, he wants me to stay and I want to stay, right? Like, this was the only real boyfriend I'd had in my teenage life. And had he been more persistent, I might have stayed. I don't know. And we were on again, off again, on again, off again, on again, off again, even up until 30s, right? Don't judge me. So finally it ended, where there's a point of no return. And so I wondered then, should I have tried a little harder? Should I have responded a little differently? Should I have fought for him? But I was like, dang it, he won't fight for me either. So what is that? And that is not the woman that I am, right? I'm not that kind of woman who is going to continually put herself in a situation to continually get her feelings hurt. Like, I'm going to let you know I want you. I'm going to let you know that I need you, that I desire you. I'm going to let you know all those things. But what I'm not going to do, I'm not going to beg you. Right. So I thought about the on again, off again with that person. It's like, oh, because we have made it work. But then I thought about some of the things that he said to me over the course of our relationship, that it wouldn't have worked. We just fundamentally had two different perspectives on life and how we were going to live life and what that looked like. And the day that he told me I was dreaming too big, I knew then it was not going to work, right? So then I was like, okay, not that. Then in between this on again, off again with him, I had a situationship. And so that didn't turn out the way that I wanted it to. And I was like, dang, girl, what is the problem? Is it you? Maybe it's you. Um, that person told me that I was making things too easy for men. And I'm like, too easy? I thought y'all wanted easy. I thought y'all didn't want to nag. Thought y'all didn't want a woman that was constantly in your face. I thought you didn't want a woman who was constantly assuming the worst of you and treating you as such. Like, I really thought, and then it was like, oh, you got to find that balance of not nagging, but pushing, not controlling, but putting your foot down. And I'm like, I'm built for that. I, and maybe I just haven't found the right person to figure out what that right balance is, right? Because I am an all or nothing person. I love hard. When I say love hard, you give me an idea, I am going to work that idea until you have everything you need to be successful, if that is what you want. I'm going to use every resource, every tool, every creative gene I have, every ounce of energy, because I want to make sure that I'm showing up, right? And adding value to your life in a way that's going to make it really hard for someone else to compete with. And then I realized like that doesn't work sometimes either, right? So, right, I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna figure it out. What I know I'm not meant to do is go through this life alone. So we're gonna figure that thing out. But as I thought about my life, right, and thought, okay, you're not married yet. You don't have any kids biologically. Likely, you're not gonna have any biological children. So then I started thinking, well, who gonna take care of me when I get older? Right? Like we can say all the things about having children and building legacy and wanting a piece of you in the earth. And, some people don't plan for children. It's a byproduct of sex, right? And you got caught slipping and now you got 1, 2, 3, 5, 10. I don't know. But part of it is, somebody's got to take care of your behind when you get older. So now I'm like, okay, God, I don't have a husband yet. I don't have any biological children. Likely at this age, I am probably going to marry a man who has either had children and wants no more, didn't have children on purpose and doesn't want any, or they're maybe raising their children still and there's room for me there. But whoever I marry, if he has children, me and that child or those children gonna have to be really, really close. Because when they come and take care of their daddy, I'm gonna need them to come take care of me too. Okay. And if that's not gonna be it, then mama gonna have to find a whole lot of money because I'm gonna have to pay somebody. That and praying to God for long life, stable mind, good energy, and for him to take me peacefully in my sleep. Because up until the day I closed my eyes for the last time, I was taking care of myself, right? That's the ideal. That's the ideal. And so that got me thinking about, well, what kind of legacy do I want to leave? Because when I close my eyes, I don't want people to like, oh, who is she? That's not what I want. I want someone, someplace to say that life is better because Kanisha Carol Venning was a part of it. And so that got me really, really focused on my work. This nonprofit, even my decision to run for office, my decision to build my consulting and speaking and facilitation business, because I realized that I have a unique voice as it pertains to the narrative around Black boys in community and what our responsibility should be to them. And so I'm working on all of that, right? So a lot of great things are coming and I can't wait to share those with you. But I want to segue here because here's where I haven't been completely honest with you all about everything that has transpired over the last couple of years, and even as it's leading me to these series of changes in my life over the last 6 months. As you know, and I stated even in this episode, in case this is your first time seeing me, meeting me, hi. I ran for school board here in Atlanta. I ran for the Atlanta Board of Education at large post 7 seats. Okay. And I jumped into the race because I really thought that we were at a time where people were paying more attention to what was happening, not just in politics as a whole, but also on the local level. I really thought that as a result of everything that was transpiring in our country, from civil unrest and the resurgence of social justice, so much so that companies and corporations and entities were just throwing money at organizations. Put a pin in that because we're coming back to that too. I really thought people were ready, and people were not ready. The turnout was dismal. Although I got tens of thousands of votes, which is no small feat for a first-time candidate and in a runoff, right? So I won in so many areas because I did things that some people could never dream of doing, running their first race. And these are people who have dreamt of holding some kind of political office. It's not anything I ever thought about prior to. So I realized that there were some people listening, some people paying attention, just wasn't enough. And here's where I'm going to share some things that folks are not going to like. And I am only going to share my experience. Okay. I'm not going to give you hearsay. I'm not going to give you what I surmise the larger picture was. I'm going to give you what I personally experienced. I said I was okay with losing my race. I wasn't. And it wasn't because I am a sore loser. I've lost a lot of things. I've lost money. I've lost jobs. I've lost men. I've lost friendships. I've lost jewelry. I've lost a lot of things. I've gone out for things and put my full self out there, and someone said, "You're not qualified in this moment at this time." No. So it wasn't that I lost that made me uncomfortable about losing. It was how I lost, right? I'm not saying I ran the perfect campaign, because God knows I didn't, right? I have relationships now that are forever altered because of that campaign experience, not knowing really what I was getting myself into, not understanding how to ask for help because I didn't know what help to ask for. I learned very quickly that people who said that they rock with you, that they're going to ride with you, that they're going to hold you down, that they're going to hold you up, that they're going to support you, say those things in words only, right? Some of those folks were people who pushed me to run, and yet didn't see them help. Now, maybe they were helping on the back end. I don't know, right? But even to this day, there's been no conversation about, oh, this is what I did. This is how I moved. For everybody who said, great job with the boys, awesome work with Hey, your voice is needed, couldn't get them to repost a campaign flyer. Couldn't get them to make a donation because they didn't want to be seen as, biased. Well, don't pat me on my back in private and then refuse to acknowledge me in public. I don't want it. I don't want the private celebration. I don't want the private support. I don't want the private, girl, you got this. I don't want that if you're not going to do it in public. Very simple. So I got into this race thinking I had all of this support behind me, right? Folks who hyped me up and pushed me to run, knew that this was my first time running, and yet did the bare minimum, if they did that, in making sure that I crossed the finish line. And still, that may not have been enough to get me to win, because ultimately people have to go and vote, right? But some of these people are influential enough that a post or 2 or 5 could have made the difference. And it wasn't. And yet some of those same people called me and asked me to help them on their campaign while I was running my own campaign. Again, you don't know what you don't know, right? If I were to ever do this again, I know how to quantify support in a way that is going to get me exactly what I need. So it was that. That was part of why I think the pieces didn't connect. Then while on the campaign trail, and I'm just going to say it, so let me just keep talking before I talk myself out of it. I would knock on doors, and my opponents yard signs would be in the yard. Again, I'm not speaking on hearsay. I am not alluding to anything. I'm just giving you my experience, the sum total of it. And I would knock on the door and I would say, hey, I know my opponent's yard sign is in your yard, but if you have not voted yet, I would really like for you to just take a moment to consider me. And here's why. 7 different people told me, oh man, it's going to be so hard to choose between a sister. Now, for those of you who are not part of the African American or Black community, a colloquialism of that is brother and sister is how we refer to each other when we don't want to say another Black person. And I said to them, well, if that is what's making it hard for you, this shouldn't be a hard decision because there's only one of us at this runoff who qualifies as a sister. And then it became, no, I met her. I'm like, you couldn't have met her. And so because I wanted to run a very clean race, I left it at that. And I encouraged them to review the literature that I was dropping off. And I encouraged them at the bare minimum to do a Google search. Now, again, those 7 people wouldn't have made the difference, right? 2-1 is really how the vote kind of shook out. But I've been holding this for a while because even the day of the election of the runoff, I'm out there holding my signs, hitting up precincts, doing the thing, and people would come out and they literally would say, oh, did I not just vote for you? No, you didn't vote for me. If you voted for that name, So here's the thing, right? Because people are probably saying, oh, KaCey, you're making this a race thing. It is a race thing. Have you met me lately? And it's a race thing because representation matters. We cannot say it and then not do the things to make it true. We just can't. We can't say it and then do the things. And we can't also assume that inherently someone is going to always know the best option for our children if they have to be told and explained certain things. Because certain things you can't always talk through. Certain things you just know. Certain things you feel in your gut because you've had a shared experience. And that does not mean that people are not equipped and not well-intended and can't serve our children well. Again, I'm sharing my experience. It was really disheartening on a lot of levels that when people don't research when it comes time to vote, they don't. They don't do a simple Google search of the names. I have friends who have multiple graduate degrees who would call me the day of election and say, yo, who's on your slate? Like, man, you know better than this. You know enough that you should have been asking these questions at least a couple of weeks ago. You wait till the day of 4 o'clock, polls close at 7 to say who's on the slate. Now, I'm grateful that you're going to go and exercise your right to vote. But come on, if you who are educated are not taking time to do your due diligence to research candidates, research policy, research issues, I know I can't expect folks who are not politically involved and politically educated to do that. That honestly hurt more than the fact that people assume that because of a candidate's name, that they automatically assumed what that person's ethnicity or racial demographics were, if that is something that is important to them. I don't vote the race card all the time. I don't vote just because you're Black. I have voted for many a white person over a Black person because that white person was wholly qualified, right? So hear me on that. I'm saying in my particular situation, many people did not do any research, chose to lean on a very ethnic sounding name. And from my perspective and my experience firsthand from the doors I knocked on, from the voters I talked to, that a perception was given and made that that ethnic sounding name fit the reality. That's what really bothered me. But didn't let that stop me, right? Built a relationship, worked, shared some ideas, shared some thoughts. And I'm grateful in the sense that I didn't win. Because I couldn't be telling you this. And I couldn't have said all the things that I have wanted to say over the last year or so, because my hands would be tied and I would have to be mindful of being an elected official and all of those things. But the bigger picture is we have to do better around voter education and not just voter mobilization. Okay, you're going to get the buses, you're going to get the vans, you're going to feed the people, you're going to pick them up. But when they get to the polls and vote, do they know to vote down the ballot? Do they know that you can't just vote for president or just vote for governor or just vote for mayor? That it's your city council folks, and in Atlanta, your school board folks, right? Your state representatives. Those are the folks that are going to make the decisions that impact your day-to-day life. And if we're just looking for the big shining name because they have millions of dollars in a campaign budget, we're going to miss out on making sure that there are people who are elected that are going to be reflective of the people that they're serving. The 2021 election flipped the Atlanta Board of Education. Initially, 8 women, 1 man. He would then go on to run for a state house seat and win, and had to vacate his seat. Then there was an appointment made, which then made in history the first all-female Board of Education in Atlanta public schools. That I'm excited about, right? As a woman, gotta be excited about that. Not necessarily excited about everybody who's there. Like, if I'm being honest, right? That's the point of this. I also realized, though, that representation mattering isn't just around race. It's also around gender. It's also around sexual orientation. It's also around disabilities. It's also around economic status. If we're going to have true representation, then we have to make sure that everybody across the board is represented to the best of our ability. So yeah, I may need to be a couple of men on the board, right? Because we need to make sure that there is a balance in thought and perspective and approach, even as we think about the boys that are being served in our schools. And let me be very clear here. I do want to see a majority Black Board of Education. Why? Because we have a majority Black student population. Now, the Black population in the city of Atlanta is starting to dwindle for lots of reasons. And that could be a whole nother 5-hour podcast, and we're going to have to chop that up. But folks who have resources, Black and white and everything in between, are removing their children from Atlanta public schools and placing them in private schools or homeschooling or other alternatives. But even though the number of Blacks in Atlanta is starting to decrease numerically, we're still the overwhelming demographic in Atlanta public schools because most of our families don't have anywhere else to send our kids. That's a fact. And so if you have 77 to 79% of your student population of one race or one identified race, we don't think that that should be the majority of the makeup on the board. And again, y'all, because I can hear y'all in my head, because people be in my inbox and in my DMs. I'm not saying that white people can't lead Black folks. I'm just saying that we have a very storied history in this country around white folks leading Black folks. And in light of the recent Supreme Court justice decision around affirmative action, I need us to retain all seats of power for as long as we possibly can and to get all seats of power for as many times as we can. Can't make it any more plain than that. Because we can say all day long, oh, we've got to move past this. We got to move past race. We got to move. Really hard to say that to somebody Black. I admonish you not to say that to somebody Black. I got white friends. Now, how that sound, right? But I do. And sometimes I have to check those white friends too. Like, oh, okay, we're doing too much. Dial it on back just a little bit. Because I don't need you to overcompensate to prove to yourself, because you ain't proving it to me, but to prove to yourself that you're not racist, that you're not biased, that you're not prejudiced, that you understand white privilege, you understand the plight of Black people in America. I'm glad. But I'm gonna need you to dial it on back just a little bit because now it's becoming a distraction more than it's becoming a help. And the only way past this, y'all, is to have these honest, hard, gut-wrenching, head-hurting, cringy, uncomfortable conversations. And for a long time, I felt uncomfortable saying the things that needed to be said because I didn't want white people to take offense because, you know, I wanted to show up as one of the Black folks that was palatable, that, oh, we can work with her, we can talk to her. She's not militant, she's not, you know, power to the people. I am, y'all, I am. I've just learned how to articulate it a little differently. And I learned also that my passive way of articulating it is getting us nowhere. So if you're not going to like me anymore, then I'm going to need you not to like me because I'm telling the truth. Which leads me to something else that is very honest and transparent. The organization that I lead, Help and Empower Youth, is an essential service. What do I mean? It means that we're taking care of Black boys primarily. We have some girls, but Black boys primarily, that most of the people would discard, throw to the side, ready to lock up. If they got shot in the streets, we'd be like, oh, that's sad, another body, but then we're on to the next one. We feed them. We give them a safe place to check into. We answer calls at 2 a.m. I answer calls at 2 a.m. They can wash their clothes for free. If needed, they could have some place to sleep and stay. We buy clothes for them. We have helped mamas and grandmamas pay bills, gone to court, probation officer visits, sat in hospitals, sat in the middle of the street behind yellow tape because police officers were walking by and one of the boys shot and not putting any fire underneath EMTs to get there on time. And then they want to debate me about me not being a legal guardian and not giving me any information. I'm like, well, I guess y'all got to get another pair of handcuffs. I'm not moving. I'm going behind this yellow tape. I'm going to sit with this young man because y'all walking past him like he's a dog in the street instead of a human being. I don't care what decision he made. Those are the things that we do. But here is what I have learned over 3 years. Because we got a lot of money our first year, right? I'm going to call it the George Floyd effect. And not to be dismissive, but many organizations and many people felt the need to do something. And so they found all these Black-led organizations to give money to. And we were one of them. We're grateful. But y'all, the money dried up as people's conscience felt abated. As people felt like, oh, we've done our part. Let's go back to business as usual. Or when I began to get more vocal about some of the experiences that the boys had, I literally had a funder come to me off the record and say that they would love to give us more money. But they couldn't convince everyone who had to vote that giving an organization money that in turn would support young men who are in and out of jail just isn't a good look. And I said to them, I was like, well, I could help keep them out of jail if we had some more money. Y'all have heard me say it over and over and over again. Poverty is expensive, so doing good is going to cost. We can't fix the problem that you have deemed a social nuisance off of goodwill and intention. We can't do it off of Miss KaCey's lack of sleep and her incredible faith. We need money. And I watch other organizations led by some incredible people, some that I call friend, hand over fist, get money, get accolades, get recognition, which brings money, brings resources, which brings accolades and recognition over and over again. Because while they may serve the same type of young person that the organization I lead serves, there's a buffer there, right? They have something else that they can jump on. All I got is trying to save these lives. They have a water brand, right? And we're working really hard to get into grocery stores and, working really hard to make sure people keep their promises to these young people and working really hard to give them another outlet. But y'all, we need people to support them and it and us. And it's draining to have to convince people why Black boys are worth it. It's draining. It's a lot of days I'm like, do I want to keep doing this? I can't keep doing this the way that is being done. Like, it's just not going to happen anymore. I can't. And what I can't do is let go either, because I understand what letting go means. A week and a half ago, one of the young men who's been in and out, in and out, in and out, literally was sitting across from me. And he says to me that sorry, my computer's about to die. He says to me that he's just going to have to figure out how to get it on his own because nobody listens, nobody cares. He is expecting folks just to get up one day and walk away from him. And that means that I can't walk away from him. How's it that you're 18 and you've already summed up that the experiences in your life are going to lead you alone and that nobody wants to support you and be there with you? And yes, there's accountability. We talked about consequences for his actions. But this is also a young man that for the 3 years I've known him has been taking care of himself, literally. So much so that I threatened violence against his father. Now, mind you, I ain't fighting no man, but I need him to understand you playing with me because you playing with him. And when I learned more about his story, it wasn't just the 3 years that I met him that he's been taking care of himself. He's been taking care of himself since he's been about 11 or 12 years old. So it's really hard to make good decisions when no one has taught you what good decisions are. I feel like I keep telling y'all this over and over again. And maybe I need to find a different way to say it. Because now I'm at the place where I'm asking the question, do you care about Black boys? You know why I go so hard for them? Because I don't have children. I have a maternal instinct that is natural. I want to take care of everybody in my life. I want to take care of my family. I want to take care of my mama. I want to take care of my man. I want to take care of my friends. It gives me joy, pleasure. I feel like it's an honor to love on somebody. And for as much as I want to love on my own babies, that might not ever happen. But it doesn't mean that that love that is percolating in my heart and in my spirit isn't meant to be given to somebody else. And I got a lot of somebodies. And so I love them like I think I would love my own, which means that regardless of your decisions, I'm still going to go hard for you. When people start talking foolish, I'm going to act a fool over you. When folks have the wrong perception, I'm going to check them real quick. I'm going to let them know that if you're concerned about the violence that is happening in our communities, then we got to solve poverty. It's not hard, really, when we think about it. It's just, do we want to do it? That is the question. Do we want to do it? Do we want to do it? I also know that my need to want to take care of other people was steeped in growing up in low self-esteem, right? Always feeling like I had to overcompensate, I had to do the most, I had to be the best, I had to set myself apart. And so some things get ingrained in your neurological pathways, right? And those synapses, and it becomes a part of your psyche and your personality. And while I don't operate from low self-esteem anymore, because I know I'm that girl, there are certain things that are just embedded in me that I want to do. And ultimately, I don't want people hurt. I don't like confrontation. I don't like conflict, right? So much so that a really, really good friend of mine has called me passive aggressive on numerous occasions because I'm like, if I said what I really wanted to say, I promise you probably would never, ever talk to me again. And not because I inherently think that you're not an awesome person. I hate your actions. I hate your response and your behavior at times. And I know that's a really strong word, but I don't know how else to convey it, because if I said it the way that I really want to say it, if I said it the way that you talk to people, we wouldn't be friends, because the reason we're friends is because you count on me to not respond to you the way that you respond. I hate conflicts. I hate confrontation. It does not make me feel good. It activates my anxiety. And my anxiety gets activated because of 3 reasons. 1, oh gosh, are we going to come back from this? Are you still going to like me and love me after this? 2, I really don't like saying these words. Like, I really want to operate in the Imago Dei, which is that I see God and the divinity in you. And I want to talk to God like this. And three, why am I in this situation where I got to tell you these things? And all those things together just makes it, you know what? I'm just not going to say nothing. And then it bubbles up. Because remember when I told you I love hard? I do all things hard. I'm 0 or 100. Ain't no 0 to 100. It is either I'm cool, calm, collected, best friend that you'd ever want in your life. I'm going to love you down, going to hold you down. I'm going to rock with you till the wheels fall off. Or I'm at 100, and 100 is you probably wish you never would have even met me. And I work real hard to make sure I don't get to that 100. Because really the only thing that brings me back down to 0 is it ain't pretty. It's not. I thank God for grace. I thank God for the Holy Spirit. I thank God that I know God. Because if it was not for God, I would really be a different person. I would be a different person. And I know that about myself. And you know, folks have over the last couple of years, it's been more prevalent, it's not new, but it's been more prevalent around the shadow work, right? And shadow work in a primer, in a nutshell, is seeing, you know, that thing about somebody that just gets on your nerves. You don't know why it gets on your nerves. They really haven't done anything wrong. It's just they irk you, they irritate you, they annoy you to no end for utterly no reason. Subconsciously, you're either concerned that you can show up in that way, or you know you show up in that way. And it's really like a mirror, right? Being shown to you. And so that shadow work is trying to figure out, why does that person annoy me? Why is it that when they do that, it gets under my skin? Why is it that? And when you begin to uncover the root cause of it, it then identifies either some unhealed trauma, it identifies some unforgiveness, it identifies maybe you're not really that good of a person as you thought you were. Because look, there's a yin and a yang to all of us. And for as sweet as I can be, I know that's how nasty and vile and mean I can be too. I know this about myself. And if you say that that is not true about you, you're lying. You're lying. You are a liar. And the truth is not in you. Do not debate me, because you will not win. Some of us do a better job of showing up in the ways that mean good for others and for ourselves. And others of us have a lot of work to do. We got a lot of work to do. A lot of work to do. I'll say it again, a lot of work to do. All right, y'all, we're coming up on time. So hopefully you learned a little bit more about me on this 1 year celebration of On the Front Porch with KaCey. And I'm really excited because this second season, we have introduced some video. I haven't done videos for every podcast episode, but some of them are on the YouTube page. You can go to youtube.com/the @ We Are the Answer. And that is spelled ANSUH. If you're wondering why am I spelling answer like answer, it's because it is a nod to my Gullah Geechee heritage, and the community that we build. And I'm just really excited to honestly be a part of it by way of my daddy. And so every chance that I get to build some of that in, I want to do that. And so that is why we spell answer that way. And you can follow me on Instagram at I am KaCey Venning or KaCey for Atlanta Youth. Website is coming soon with some tools and some resources. If you're looking for a speaker, hit your girl up. If you're looking for a facilitator, I don't do diversity and inclusion work, but I am going to do equity work because there is a difference. And we've just dropped everything into this DEI space. And it's still very surface level. And we can't have diversity and inclusion if we don't first understand equity, and equity as it relates to young people, Black male youth in particular, for me, in the work that I personally do, even outside of the nonprofit. And really, speaking to that, I was really excited because this past June, I got to speak at my very first national conference at Points of Light in Chicago, and I led a session called The Science of Building Trust. It was really well received. I was pleasantly surprised by the number of people who stayed after to speak with me. Was offered an opportunity to go and speak in Guatemala, but it is the dates conflict with a very, very, very important family obligation. And so because I do not have a poverty mindset, I know that opportunities to speak abroad and internationally will come back to me. So that I am not worried or concerned about. But we are working on just some new stuff for you. So I want you to stay tuned, stay glued to all that we're doing, stay plugged in, and remember that we all have an impact to make. We all have something that we can do. We all have a way that we can show up in this world and make it better. And this is my way of doing it. So I know I probably ruffled some feathers today. And that is okay. That is okay. It's really about sharing what is and then learning how to move forward. You can experience something that wasn't pleasant, learn the lesson, and then keep moving forward with those people, with those things. It doesn't have to mean that it is I'm over here, you're over there. And I know that for a fact. Again, my life has been a series of changes for the last 6 months, and I am learning more and more to be true and honest to myself first, above anybody else or anything else, even if it rubs somebody the wrong way, even if it means that their perception of it or their experience of it is counter to mine. That's fine. That is okay. How we perceive it may absolutely be different, and I'm okay with that. Doesn't negate what it is, doesn't lessen what it is. We just have to be about community. So that is it, good people. Thank you so much for tuning in, for being a part. I hope that you are listening to this and the other episodes. You can catch them all on your favorite podcast platform. Visit us over at YouTube. Again, youtube.com/the @ and we are the answer, ANSUH. Follow me on social media at I am KaCey Venning and KaCey for Atlanta Youth. See you next time.